I read Swamp Thing, Annual 3, suggested for mature readers. This is the cover. And it was by Alan Moore and Rick, how do you say it? Veitch. So, it starts with these two, Abby and Alec. The Swamp Thing. He is the Swamp Thing, sorry. The green. And they just talk a little bit about how they're in love, but she wants more of a normal life, and, you know, obviously he can't really offer her that at the time because he is a plant. And so that makes it very hard. And so then, like, you go and you see, I'm not sure what his name is.
Monsieur Mallah.
Monsieur Mallah, yeah. Him. Sorry. And then he basically hijacks the plane almost and tries to take it over right here. And then flash forward, you see, what's his name? Sam. You see Sam, and he's a ghostwriter for a comic, and he's basically saying how he thinks that the writer of the comic should be more, how you say, brave, I guess. Like, in his illustrations and in his writing, he should take more risks. And then he starts to go a little crazy. As you can see, he's starting to get mad because the writer's not understanding that. And so then he takes the broad, as they use the term. He takes her. I'll show you a better picture.
Because of Grodd, too. Remember Grodd's controlling.
Yeah, because Grodd is controlling. I forgot to mention that in the beginning, but that's what this was. He is controlling. Yeah. So, okay. So then he takes her, and I'm not going to speak too much about this one because it's kind of short, but basically they mention a little bit about racism in this one and how he mentions, what does he say specifically? So, like, the superhero, one of them comes down. Do you remember his name?
Bawana Beast.
Bawana Beast. He comes down, and then,
No need to tell because Africa's in it's South Africa, remember the Civil War?
Yeah. Okay, so South Africa, the Civil War. And so then he says, but that wasn't the most disturbing part of him coming down. And then he said, what could be weirder than that? And then the guy mentions he was white. Do you remember his name? Sorry.
Which one? Reverend. Just call him Reverend.
Reverend. And then Reverend said, because he was white. And so then you get back to Abby and Alec, the plant. Yeah, I'll show it to this. The plant guy, the Swamp Thing. And so then he starts freaking out, and then flash forward more. There is Kong Gorilla, and so basically I'm just going to kind of summarize what happens. He somehow, like, they want him to transform into Kong Gorilla to to go talk to the Swamp Thing, but then what happens is he ends up he doesn't want to transform, but then he ends up transforming because of the control from, what's his name?
Grodd, yeah.
The control from Grodd, and so he ends up turning anyway without rubbing his ring. So then he kind of starts becoming more beast beast-like, and he runs out. And so then they send Janu, I think is his name, to go find him. And so then, let's see, Kongorilla is in the forest. That's him in this form. Kongorilla form. And so, Abby and Alec, Alec is in the water, and then Abby starts talking about how she, like, doesn't want to live without him, and how she basically is still gonna love him. And so then you see the boss. He's in, like, a zoo, basically, or is that more of a jail?
That's a zoo.
It's a zoo. Okay, yeah. So I thought. So he's in the zoo, and then he starts doing, like, impressions because he watches a lot of TV. Movies, sorry. He watches a lot of movies. And so then he starts doing impressions and then steals the key, as you can see right here. He steals the key and I guess kind of does a reverse roll and gets out. And so then he leaves. And then this is when you see Rod again with his mind control, or mind control device thing. And so then Sam hijacks the plane, and he's kind of crazy. I mean, so then he starts getting kind of crazy, and he's waving you don't know it yet, but it's a water gun. But here, I'll try and show that, because he actually talks about the water gun later on. But anyways, it's actually a water gun. But then he's, like, flailing it around and basically just, like, kind of talking crazy. And so then the, like, military shows up, and he's scared that they're gonna be mad and kill him, but instead they offer him a ride, I guess. So, yeah. And then, anyways, so then the boss, he's on the boat, but then they want to get him off because now he's boring, apparently. So then they have him take the car, and hopefully he won't come back. And so then he offers Janu a ride, because he comes, and so that's right here. The boss is offering Janu a ride. And so then they end up back and then he sees Kongorilla. I'll show you better. He sees Kongorilla. He finds him right down here. Okay. And so then basically then you see the swamp thing, and they're all basically reconvening in the same place because of the mind control is leading them all there to essentially take over the world, kind of, or the city or whatever. And so then you see Rod with his mind control device on, and you see that they're kind of invading his space, and so then they take it off, so the mind control stops, and so they no longer are being led into so they take it off of him. As you can see, he's on the ground down there, and so then he can no longer control. And to wrap things up, eventually they win the fight, and they win, and then they reconcile at the end, Abby and Alec, and essentially, they just stop the mind control from Grodd, and all have a happy ending. Bye.